Hey guys, and welcome back to the Fortress. Hey guys, so I'm heading to East Coast Comic Expo 2016. I'm going to be wearing a little POV camera this time. It's going to be a little different, just to kind of give you guys another angle or a few shots to see what that's like. So yeah, I'm going to get over there and I'm going to meet up with Skeptic and the rest of the gang. Okay guys, so before I get into any more of the video, I just want to give you a quick explanation about the portion you're about to see. I had walked in and just kind of went to the left and didn't really say anything or talk to anyone because it was way too loud in there to get any kind of good quality audio. Unfortunately, I don't have all the equipment to do that, but I walked into the left and the very first table you see is going to be my friends from the Comic Hunter. They're great. They had this huge display going on there and just kind of went by and said hi to them, and then went down towards the back end, which is where all the featured guests were. So you'll see the big red curtain with a bunch of people kind of lined up in front, and that will be the featured guests, and that's at the later portion of this part of the video. And I was hanging out with my buddies Josh and Corey, which you may recognize as Skeptic. And yeah, so enjoy this first portion, guys. This is kind of what it was like to first walk in and just kind of hang around there for a bit. This next clip, guys, is of an artist. He was set up outside of the actual building that the East Coast Comic Expo was being held, and it's because he was doing paint drawings or paintings with like a spray paint. And unfortunately, I didn't really get to talk to him because he was really busy, obviously, but his work was amazing. And the fact that he could do all this in just like 3 minutes, I believe his sign said, was absolutely crazy. So I actually filmed the whole time he was actually doing a painting for me, and I think he explained part of the paint he was using was made of sugar and stuff, but he was really talented. Unfortunately, I didn't get to talk to him afterwards and maybe get his card and stuff, but I'm sure I'll be seeing him again. But until then, enjoy this quick clip of the painting I got of Superman and his Fortress of Solitude.
Superman, the Fortress of Solitude.
Oh, something smells like it's burning now.
Not too bad inside, just a little high, you could have stopped it.
knew I liked comic books.
How many people here personally know Matt or have met Matt before?
Yay.
So you guys all know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody, you can just sort of join in. It's fun.
So on that note, welcome guys to the first panel of the 2016 4th Annual ECCE. Today we have Michael Beatter and Nick Bradshaw, local boys. So starting off, I'll ask a little bit of fluff questions. Basically, was there anything particular, like a movie or a comic book you read, or was it that made you want to kind of get into this type of industry, or was it just like a long period of events of just like doodling for 10 years or something like that?
Not a bad question, Matt. That's all.
Hey, they told me fluff questions.
Yeah, I know. I was still good way to start. Go ahead, Ricky.
Well, I like everybody, read comics growing up. I didn't really buy a lot. I didn't have a lot of money, but my cousin lived down the street from me. He had a huge box of Mad magazines, a huge box of regular comics, like superior comics. And I think I was more attracted to Mad magazine, or personally the drawing aspect, me copying Mad magazine than I ever was copying like Spider-Man. But that was the origin of my interest. I actually didn't want to be a cartoonist growing up. I didn't see that as, by the time I was 15, I wanted to be a painter. I wanted to paint and get gallery shows. What happened to me was I got into Mount Allison University, and by fluke, I started working for the school newspaper, drawing a cartoon strip. It was called Otterman. It was about an otter, and it was kind of stupid. And it wasn't political, but my obsession was painting. And I just ended up, one day something happened in politics. It was like free trade debate. I drew this cartoon, and it kind of, I had a bunch of pretty good cartoons, but I never had one of those, what you would call today a viral cartoon. It wasn't, back then viral was 3 guys laughed, but now it's a lot different. But I had this great cartoon that summed up events, and it became a phenomenon on campus, and I realized, wow, this medium has some power to it. You can actually, it just blew me away, and I guess at that moment I started to consider cartooning as something I could do.
Me, it was such an odd way to start. My brother was in the IWK hospital in Halifax, so I used to take the train with my grandfather a lot. This was before handheld video games, so of course comic books were a great outlet to keep a hyper kid quiet. So they used to buy me Archie comics. I'd get stacks of them at the United Bookstore, and when we take the train ride, I was always reading through my Archies, digging through them. And then I had this babysitter here in Moncton some weekends that I would stay with, and her and her boyfriend had broken up, and he had left a box of all these old Alan Moore, Swamp Thing, DC comics, and it was like going from Archie to that totally warped me. And I was just, I could see that there was just great variety in comics, and then I had a friend, I only started reading superhero comics when I was like 12, and then I was sort of going back and reading all these back issues of old books. Like I was reading a lot of the 70s comics that he had in boxes, and again picking up stacks at United Bookstore, still reading Archies and everything else. So I realized I had enjoyed a variety of books in the medium, even some of the stuff from overseas, like Lone Wolf and Cub. Dark Horse Comics was releasing these things. Like I always had a good open mind for anything that was cartoony, visual medium style telling of a story. And I was just talking to Mike, like my dad would buy the books at the time of political cartoonists like Donato, and there were some of the others that I would sort of get into those as well. So, and then it just went from there. I was drawing all the time, based off that stuff. And some of the illustrations, like those old Swamp Thing books, would scare the hell out of my mother, but it would always pepper with superhero stuff as well. So it was that was sort of my foot in that direction.
Fantastic. I guess second question we'll go with what kind of liberties do you guys have when you're doing your pieces and whatnot? Like I know, like being a political cartoonist, you feed off of what's going on at the moment. Do you pick and choose yourself what you do, or do you have somebody that kind of is like, all right, this is the big story this week, you got to do this?
When I first started working in the 90s, I worked for Times Globe in St. John, and they kind of directed me a bit, and I hated that. I hated people telling me what to do. I think that's why I became a political cartoonist, because people tell me what to do. But when I first started, I had some direction from the editor. But then I got a job at the Daily News, and I had full reign, and I've had full reign ever since. If you see a cartoon in the newspaper, that's just me coming up with deciding what the news story of the day is, me coming up with the joke and me executing it. And the only thing the editor will do is correct spelling mistakes, which happens a lot with the cartoonist, or deciding not to run it. That's all the editor has input into, and paying.
I guess Nick, kind of the same thing. I know that the comics is a little bit different because you're given a title to do for, but if there are some some liberties that are constant throughout, maybe some.
Nah, you got no liberty. I mean, it's one of the reasons why the independent comic movement is growing. I'm going to make it sound very nefarious here, but when you do corporate comics, there is an agenda that they have to answer to. Like, there's a certain direction that they need to bring Spider-Man, let's say, to an audience, and there's always a plan for that because it is a marketed product that they put out there. It's not just comics anymore. You got the movies, the video games, the cartoons, the action figures, the Subway sandwich bags, whatever. There's always that direction that they need to make sure that there's a fan base that's going to be recognizing that model. So we have to realize that we're the grunts in that dichotomy, like of that plan, that we are there sort of directing that product. But when you go independent comics is so much better in a way because you're able to, not to say that the superhero stuff isn't fun, you do get to play and tell your own stories in your own way, but you need to understand that this is owned by a company and they do have their plan for what they want to do with these characters, and you have to respect that, because there's a fan base that they have to answer to. So, you have to be the employee at that point where you're just directing it in that forward motion. But independent, you do get that sort of liberty where you're the one who gets to craft your story and you get to steer the car. So that's why there's a big appeal to creators to start moving towards independent. Because independent was scary for years. I mean, you were looking at it and you were saying, it's kind of hard to make that. Where am I going to get funding? But there's open avenues now. There's publishers that are looking for content to put out there. There's studios that are looking for fresh, new independent material to exploit for movies and video games. And, you're seeing creators saying, okay, what can I come up with? Or it's like you're throwing stuff at the wall and you're having fun, just with this madness of throwing creator stuff out there. You're still answerable to an editor. A lot of independent people will hire their own editors to come in and say, look, don't let me ramble. Tell me when to shut up and what's working and what's not working. So they will purposely hire somebody to come in and sort of keep them on the path. But you are seeing, a bit more of that freedom out there. So
I have something to add. My job is very unlike yours in the sense that I kind of try to illustrate, if the company's in trouble and there's new news, I'm going to go for it and make a joke about that. But on the other hand, one of my clients is the Irvings. If I drew a cartoon about the Irvings one day and it was a bit of a joke, I might get away with it. But if I did 10 cartoons in a row talking about how the Irvings suck, I wouldn't have a job very long. And so I also have these limitations, but the extent that we would. There's nobody sitting around waiting for me to, you know, I'm not gonna destroy the product.
Well, it's not even a thing like where you could destroy the product, it's just that they do have that brand that they have to protect, they have that marketed audience that they need to appease. Like, I mean, they'll look at a comic like, let's say, The Punisher, and they're gonna say, okay, the people who read Punisher and fans of Punisher, they're the people who were reading The Punisher in the 80s and the 90s. So, you know, they're that fan base, that age group. How far can we go with The Punisher for that age group? We're not writing it for 12-year-olds. So, you know, they're targeting that. Spider-Man, you're looking at it, you're saying, okay, we got a bunch of 30 and 40-year-old people like me who grew up on Spider-Man, they have their own stories of Spider-Man, but we want to open a new audience for Spidey. We want to bring kids back to Spidey so that we can have 30 or 40 more years of fans growing up with Spider-Man with new stories. So these are marketing decisions that they sit there and talk about, you know. And these are things you have to think about when you have a marketed product like Spidey. It's not even a character at that point anymore, it's a product. You know, where you're doing independent stuff, you know, you don't really have to worry about that because you're building your fan base as you go along. You know, like you're trying to appease that audience as you go along.
It's funny, my job's the opposite. It's my job to destroy Stephen Harper's fan base. Now it's a little touchy. Like, you draw a picture now about Justin Bieber, and you have all these people like that think he's Jesus Christ going, what are you doing? And they've forgotten all about Harper and all those years that they drew Harper. Now it's like erasing. They've erased everything I've done before, and now I gotta try harder. It was so easy under Harper to come up with an idea. I had an idea at 10 a.m. and another one at 11 a.m. another one at 12. Now I gotta like.
Well, it's interesting because your job, it's sort of like you're honestly holding a mirror up and saying, look, this is what it looks like to us. And that's what I like about political cartoons, you know, like you can put it out there and there's an honesty to it. Yeah. As brutal as it may be, there's an honesty to it.
Yeah. Look at this, Stephen Harper's an anus again. Yeah, you wouldn't have a job if you did that to Wolverine. Maybe.
No, I know. Well, I would, but it would be something I wouldn't be signing my name to. Certain dark corners of the internet, I'm sure that
I'd read that comic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a lot of people that would. That's the crazy part. I'll tell you a totally inappropriate story.
This is the format for it.
When I first started in comics and going on the internet, I actually received an email from this guy, and he was like, listen, we've seen your work online, we love your work, we'd like you to work for us, and we're willing to pay you $1,700 US a week. Now, I'm out of college, I'm studying craft dinner, I'm like, yeah, friggin' A, I'm all over that. I'm interested to hear more. And he says, we'd like you to draw hentai. I'm like, I don't have no clue what this is. I have no idea. So I'm like, well, let me look into it and I'll get back to you. So my dad's sitting next to me and I'm like, this guy wants me to draw the hentai stuff. I don't know what this is. It's like, I thought it was like, that's what Japanese comics were called. So dad's like, oh, do a search and we'll talk. So I type in hentai on Google. Let me tell you, I'm pretty sure that's the start of my FBI file. So it's always good to sort of be informed of the type of stuff that's
I want to search that.
No, yeah. But that's when you say no to the easy money, right? You're like writing the guy. My dad had said that. It was something that always sort of stuck with me. This is where, you know, the lesson came out of the inappropriate interaction with this guy. He says, you put your name on anything like that, it will follow you through your career and probably exclude you from other jobs that you may get down the road. Because you never know. Disney could come knock and say, oh, you drew that crap? No, we're not taking that. So, you know, it was sort of a good lesson to learn that I have to be careful the type of projects that I do. And I tell that to artists, like, if you're going to do stuff like that, use a pen name or draw it in a different manner because it will follow you for your career. Especially with the internet, that stuff can be found like that. So, yeah. Anyway, there's my one to grow on lesson for the day.
So, like, I guess two different perspectives. When you guys knew what you were going to do, that you were going to draw and do this for a living, what kind of obstacles did you guys face from, I guess, you being here instead of, I know, like, the comic industry, the headquarters from, like, let's just say Marvel and DC, the two big ones were in New York, so you going to New York and being amongst people, but now with the internet, you don't have to be in those markets. You can kind of be from, like today, you work for Moncton, which is great. You don't have to go away. And Michael, like, did you have to move away, or did you just feel like moving away?
No, I didn't feel yeah, I did feel I had to move away. I wanted to be a painter or a cartoonist, and the Moncton Times and Transcript was the only day in town here for what I wanted to do. And the other limitation for me, even though I was in French immersion and things, the strong art scene here was francophone, and it seemed to be that the art scene in Halifax was Anglophone. I'm not saying that I just found difficulties breaking in. You know what I mean? Like you've got to with the arts community. You know, you can't just show up at the door and go, "Hey, I'm here now." You know what I mean? So I just found difficulties with that, and a bunch of my friends moved to Halifax, and you know, I had ties there into the arts community, and there were a number of other ways that I could become do freelance work as a cartoonist. Moncton didn't have those at that time. Now, with that said, would I move to Halifax now again? Maybe not, because Moncton sure has changed a lot since I left. There's only 2 cities in the Maritimes I live in, and they're Halifax and Moncton, and equally are great. Now, to go back, maybe I should articulate a little bit. I just didn't know anybody in the arts community here. I probably, if I'd given it if I had stayed here longer, I probably could have broken it pretty simply. Yeah.
Well, I mean, with the internet too, what it is now and what it was maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah, there weren't many opportunities. I mean, there were some artists around here local that I knew. There was a gentleman who was doing his own cartoon stuff that was working at CBC, but one of the most well-known artists in the area was Lars Larson, who was located out in Cape and Rage. He's a famous world wildlife painter, and a lot of people didn't know that he was located here. This is a man who had an interesting story himself, but he was the only one that I had known at that time that was doing arts in this area. So I'm sort of, like that you kind of had to go out, see the world, meet people, abroad. And then now there's a larger art community here that's growing, which is why we like doing the ECC. You're starting to see a lot of the local talent that, they have access to one another. They're able to discover one another, interact. There's the Moncton Artist Community page where there's a lot of people, posting their artwork and the stuff that they're working on there, and you're just seeing that community grow.
Well, when I left, there was a strong arts community in Moncton. I just didn't know anybody in it, and the limitations weren't language, like I made it sound. They were that I didn't know anybody, and that was simply it. And I knew a whole bunch of people in Halifax, and that's simply it.
In closing, guys, I just want to talk about this event a little bit. It was really fun. I think I've gone the past 4 years. I've gone every year. It's always a little different. It's not as big as HalCon maybe, but there's a lot of great stuff there, a lot of great vendors, and great discussions, a bunch of great people. They usually have a really good guest list for Moncton, and it's really great to see something like this in my hometown. And I mean, if you live anywhere around this part of the country, it's kind of central, so it's really easy to get over to. So if you're really close and you want to try checking it out, definitely check this event out. It's hosted, I think, every May of every year. And again, you can get some great collectibles and stuff, and there's just great people in charge of this, and the fans and everyone who go to this. It's really fun. There's a lot of cosplaying and stuff. I didn't get a whole bunch of photos and things, but yeah, it's really a good time. And if you guys can go, I think it's $12 a ticket. You can get VIP for like $25. So check this event out next year. Get your tickets, and let's all go and have a great time. Alright guys, so that is my video for the East Coast Comic Expo 2016. Hope you all enjoyed it. I will have my pickups video showing all of the great collectibles and cool stuff I picked up this year. video coming very soon. If you like this video, give it a like down below and comment down below as well and let me know what you all thought. You can also find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I'm always posting great content on there for you guys. And as always, thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.